Thank you everyone for jumping on and tuning in to the Top 5 Truth Bombs hosted by the Sideshow Awards and BreakingAd. I am motherfucking Bre Fernandez from Miami, Florida, and Laura Canzano, my amazing partner who tones me down a notch. A big
not possible.
Bless you, Laura. Bless you.
This is us. We have, if you guys don't know what BreakingAd is, just a little, we're an Instagram account that we started a while ago. We started because we wanted to share with all the juniors who are starting out in the middle of COVID, all the stuff we wish we knew when we started out, even though like for me, it's been 10 years since I've been in the business. So a lot of things have changed, but a lot of things is still the same. And we kind of wanted to give advice, but like having fun with it, laugh about it, kind of laugh at all the mistakes we've ever made and kind of pass those on. So here today, you know, this is Bre and me. We have amazing panelists and we're going to share our top 5 posts that we like to talk about. And we're going to ask the panelists to kind of give their story of what does that post remind them of, what advice that sparks, so you guys can all like learn some advice from it. So without further ado, Amber, I think you're up first. So if you want to give us your name, your position, where you work, and then something that you, a quick little something about being a junior back in the day.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Amber Justis. I'm an ECD. I've been doing this for a little over 20 years. I started this thing this year called the Justice Department, which is what my dad used to call all his kids. He had like 5 or 6 kids, and we were all tools in his mind. So he coined us as the JD, and now I'm using that to you know, try to solve ad problems in an honest and you know, transparent way. And something from when I was a junior. Can you, what do you mean by that? Like,
yeah, girl, back to the land of banners. When
your
you were
first day in the job, what was that like?
Yeah, when you were bright-eyed little Amber making those banners.
Oh, okay. So it like predates the digital era. The first thing I worked on, I'll just tell you my first brief. I worked on a brief for a 15-second TV spot at a place called Low. I was doing an internship in New York. It was like late 90s, and it was for Burger King. And I was supposed to hype up Cleveland Browns fans that I learned barked when they were excited about something. So the entire spot that we sold through was just people barking at a Burger King order taker. Okay. I'm pretty sure we were giving away free cups for the Cleveland Browns. I don't know.
That sounds
no banners.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's how we all started. Later.
Yeah.
Right.
And Nicole.
Hey, well, I'm a group creative director / writer at GSD&M. I've been there for 12 long years. I worked there with Laura and I worked with Bre as well. So I've had like a really an accidental long-term Texas career. I'm not from Texas, but I guess I am now. And then let's see. And then the junior thing. So maybe this is maybe something I wish I'd known when I was a junior, is that nobody is going to give you shit in this industry. I mean, like, you'll probably get some free lunches, but if you want something, you need to ask for it. So whether that's the good assignment, a promotion, a raise, even I have 2 kids, and when I had my first one, I was one of the first creatives to have a child in the creative department, and I had to ask for time to pump breast milk because apparently, like, you know, that wasn't an expectation. They weren't going to give that to me. So ask for what you want.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah. No.
I love breast milk.
Breast milk. Go cheese.
Good segue? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just playing.
Prostate exam.
Speaking of milk.
We haven't even got in yet, and I'm already just being inappropriate. I apologize. So hey, how's it going? My name is Mo. I'm a associate creative director at Facebook. I'm an advertising refugee. Been in the industry for a nice amount of time. What was the question? Something about what I wish I would have known as a junior? Or...
Yeah.
I would have to say, when it comes to like, you know, being a junior or anything, I think honestly, sometimes people need to really get out of that state of mind. Like once you're in the building, you're in the building. You know, if you're a art director, you're not an aspiring art director, you're an art director. And then the world is like water, it just really wants to get out of your way. And you'll see how having that mentality can almost drive you to be action oriented and a doer once you get in this industry.
That's true.
And that's some soulful advice.
Snap, snap.
So we're gonna start with our discussion of the post. So we selected our 5, what we thought are probably the 5 top things that juniors need to know when getting into the game. And the way the discussion is gonna go is we're gonna read the post that we originally posted, and we're going to ask you guys a question for each. So the first post is let go your ego. And if your attitude sounds like Kanye, I'm the GOAT, I'm the best copywriter, the best AD, I don't need anyone. My boss, screw that fool. My partner, fuck him. Fuck everyone. I'll get that damn can hardware my damn self. Just close the door.
Laura, put that toot in it.
Ego is the enemy in the ad game and gets in the way of every time. You can be the best and brightest, but what good will it do if no one wants to work with you except your buddy bro? So
you guys been listening into my meetings? How did you get this?
Huh?
You guys been listening into my meetings? How did you get this word for word? That's crazy. It's a bad joke.
We don't know. So
everyone that is listening, just wanted to clarify that Mo made a funny joke. You can choose not to laugh. Just wanted to bring
good,
that
Bre. That's
channel.
good. Touche.
So here's the question for you guys, and we can start with whoever has the answer first. When was a time in your career that you noticed that was good advice, like you needed to kind of let go of your ego and kind of just understanding, or been surrounded by people that couldn't let go of their ego and that hurt them in a way? Anybody?
Don't jump in all at once.
Okay, well, I'll tell a story that's not about me having a huge ego, but about an encounter with egos. And so it starts in portfolio school. So when I was in portfolio school, there was an award show. I went to the Creative Circus, and the award show one semester, another creative and I had very similar campaigns. And I didn't know this person. I'd never worked with them. So if we both thought of the same idea, probably meant it was the first thought idea. It was pretty dumb. Well, this person was just, they thought that I had plagiarized their work. So they basically launched a smear campaign, whatever. It was stupid. So fast forward 10 years, I'm at my agency, I'm in a meeting, and I look up through the conference room doors and I see that person talking to our chief creative officer. And I haven't thought of this person in a decade. I'm like, that motherfucker is not going to work. So as soon as my meeting ended, I texted our chief creative officer and I was like, that guy is an asshole. He is not going to work here. He's an egomaniac. And he was like, well, shit, we're not going to hire him. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to feel really bad if I fuck up this guy's life and prevent him from getting a job. So let me reach out to him and give him the benefit of the doubt. So I emailed him and I said, the long and short was, you're an asshole. You were an asshole. Tell me why you're not one anymore. And so he wrote a really thoughtful response about basically over the last decade, he realized he had a huge ego. He needed to check it, and I really sincerely felt like he had evolved. So I told my chief creative officer, I have no issue. So now we worked together for many a year. We are working on some projects together right now. And I don't know. So people can change, but if you have an ego, it's going to follow you around. Advertising is this really small world. We all know one another. And you'll be found out eventually. So check your ego.
That's right. I like that.
Cool. He almost had like an ego death, if you will. So it's very cool.
We always wait for those moments that, life comes full circle and it's like, I've been waiting for the time where I'm going to have the power to make the decision. And it sounds like you took the best foot forward there, Nicole.
I didn't want to have the guilt on my conscience of, screwing up his life.
Yeah,
He
and
made
I think
for 2 years. So.
I think you did something, Nicole, that a lot of people wouldn't do, and
That
yeah, you kept your side of the street clean, which is like you learn over time that that has to be a priority, because
Right.
you know you could have gone low with that person, but I feel like people who are given the space to change show up differently. The expectation shifts if they really do, if they're really humbled and have learned and adapted to be a more mindful person. Like, I bet you have a great partnership with that person now. That's my assumption.
Yeah, we do.
Great.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'll give my take on the ego experience. This was a tricky one for me. I honestly think I learned kind of the hard way, like a lot of folks that came up in my generation. I think early in my career, I like tried to emulate the wrong people. I didn't see a lot of like emotional intelligence or humility in at the leadership level of a lot of the big agencies that I was a part of in the beginning of my career. So I guess I sort of did it wrong first. I kind of hardened myself and I tried to, perform with this inflated sense of confidence in the hopes of like being seen or taken more seriously. And, of course, back then, this is the early 2000s, that didn't really play so well for women in big agency environments. So interestingly for me as a woman, I had it had sort of a reverse effect. I think it polarized me from people. It kept people at a distance from me. There was, and that inherently that lessened the scope of people that I could learn from. So I think I got it pretty wrong fresh out of the gate because I just wasn't seeing anybody doing it with a high level of emotional intelligence. And I think when I finally stopped trying to be like other people that I wasn't, is when I kind of found my pocket of happiness in this business. And I, of course, was then able to attract other people who saw vulnerability and empathy as like a strength and not a weakness. And, of course, I'm still loud as fuck. I'm too big sometimes, that I can't seem to shake. But the ego piece of it, I think I got out of my system really early because it didn't fit. And luckily, I think we're at a time in the business where that's a big non-starter. For me, it's a big turnoff when I'm looking for partners to make things with.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And these people you were trying to emulate when you started off, were they all men?
Oh yeah.
Oh, what?
Come on.
Poor Mo.
I mean,
We tried to balance this thing out.
Yeah, I mean the big dogs at the big holding companies back then there were really senior leadership on the client side of things and the account management side of things, some strategy, but creative was very male dominant. So yes, I was absolutely trying to be one of the guys. And I think being comfortable around a lot of big dick energy is something that that was an advantage to me to get my foot in the door in the beginning of my career. But later I kind of had to shed some bad habits that I learned from that crowd because it wasn't how I wanted to grow into my career.
that's right.
That's a good shortcut now from big pussy energy, talking now to Mo's experience. Want to drop some prostate?
You're right, with the prostate players. Well, first off, I got a snowball off of that. I think that's awesome and so smart that you learned that early and you learned what not to do, because now it's what makes you different is now what makes you special. And now, you're where you are and now you have to see some of these people who did have that ego or big dick energy or however y'all put it. So I just have to say that's awesome. As far as my story, it was a little bit of the same thing, being underrepresented. Sometimes I do believe you do need some slight ego for you to be action oriented, but I would see some people at school where you wouldn't, an idea wouldn't come out of the meeting unless it came from them. So you just found out, you're like, okay, this is what I don't want to do. And I was fortunate to have some mentors who told me some really good things. And the one that sticks to me to this day is saying, like, the true creatives, the best ones, they don't fall in love with their idea. They fall in love with the problem at hand. So when that happens and you become into that, you'll see how great ideas can come from anyone. They can snowball from anyone, and you can become this problem solver. And most importantly, you can get up to that ECD level and become a facilitator and just solve some major things.
Yeah, that's true.
That's good.
Moving on to our next post.
Numero dos. All right. Number 2, let me move this little Zoom thing that's blocking my view here. So you are not your idea. I think, Mo, you were just talking about being a problem solver. So this is a good segue. So months of hard work, one too many sleepless nights, canceled BFF dates, all to have your idea mutilated, Dexter style, ripped apart, and bloody killed by your CD, ECD, or client. The horror! We've all been there, and it feels like it's us they're doing it to, but it's not. Don't take it personally. Your idea is not your identity. It's just work. It's just advertising. It's just one of the many ideas you will have. Don't let each blow rip you a new one. It stings at first, but it's just the name of the game. Develop thick skin or get a therapist. Hashtag Truthbombs, which is funny because y'all are ECD, CD, ACD level. So y'all the ones taking a shit on my ideas or Laura's ideas in the game. But let's talk about that dichotomy when you were a junior and now as a CD, when you got shit killed and now when you're doing the killing.
Well said. I'll go first on this one and I'll keep mine short. I think the way that it works with that, with you or not your ideas, is first off, just having sort of a belief and a mind shift in your head. And this is another quote from my mentors is believe that you're infinite in ideas and you will be. It's sort of like, we've seen.
So funny.
Like we've seen, for all the basketball fans out there, we've seen Steph Curry shoot shots from half court from the NBA line, but we've seen him airball some free throw, not free throws, but like some 3-pointers. So just have that mindset in your mind and just know that there are not even millions, not trillions more, but infinite more that are coming from like your insane brain. So yeah, don't get stuck on one.
Taking notes here. Can I get your mentor's number?
No shit.
Nicole, do you want to chime in? Do you have anything here that you
No,
like?
I completely agree with what Mo said, because I think the minute you learn, well, you need to learn resiliency. Like that's what the most successful creatives have. And like as a leader and a manager, I want to work with the creatives who are resilient, because I mean, most of the things you work on are going to die. Like 98% of the things you think of are going to die. So you have to be resilient. And I think if I was fortunate in my career in that early on, I had to work on some pretty shitty assignments where I had to create large quantities of ads. And that teaches you that, I had to write print ads for pre-planning your funeral for Dignity Memorial Funeral Homes for every major calendar holiday. So imagine writing a Mother's Day ad asking you to pre-plan funeral. But anyway, exercises like that teach you resiliency. And then I also worked on a print campaign. These are all print ads. This is like, everyone's like, what the fuck is a print ad? For Patron Tequila, they had a campaign for a long time where every print ad was different and it was customized to the editorial it was running beside. So like I produced hundreds of print ads, but to get to those 100, I had to write thousands. And so I think, as juniors, we all groan about having to do some of those exercises, but I think they teach you so much. They teach you to be resilient. And they'll better prepare you for when you get those big swings, like at big campaigns or TV or things like that.
Yeah, you'll work faster through them too later on. Just be quick.
Yeah.
I will add that Nicole is probably like one of the most gritty GCDs I know in the industry, and I've worked at my fair share of shops, and I just like, ever since I met Nicole, I was like, that's one gritty bitch. Damn, I love her.
I'm gonna have to add that to my LinkedIn profile.
I will add
right.
that.
Gritty bitch.
URL, one gritty.
Slash.
Oh, Davis. One gritty bitch. Love Brenda. Talking about gritty bitches. Amber, care to join in?
Yeah, I'll get gritty. So like at the core of your idea, your question, right, is like, how do you detach yourself from
the
an
idea.
that gets rejected, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and from the idea itself.
Like it's interesting. I feel like this time in my career, there's more of me in my work than ever. So it's kind of hard. It's not that black and white for me. I do feel like I'm bringing more narratives into the room that are personal. Whether it's something I've lived firsthand or I've seen tangentially with the people, like my loved ones around me, but like I'm borrowing from shit that's real in the world. So and in many cases, it's something I've experienced personally. So I feel like, I don't know, it's a tricky thing to answer. I don't think my self-worth is quite as tightly stitched to how people respond to those narratives as it was when I was younger. I was much more desperate for validation. You know, I think we all go through that. Like, I think that's like just a natural state to be in when you're kind of like a creative amoeba, which is like, you think that every idea that you have is the last good one you're ever going to have. You don't feel like a prolific artist. You feel like you painstakingly squeeze these thoughts forward because we're so self-critical in the process. So I think there's just a lot of fear and doubt that is a natural, it's kind of like you have to metabolize through that when you're younger. And if you're not feeling it, you're not getting it out of the way. You got to get it out of your body. I think now, like, I have this inherent, because I've lived a lot of the narratives that I'm trying to share with marketers to propel their business. I sort of believe so intrinsically in the narratives that I'm proposing that I think I now know that I could take those insights and experiences into a different business opportunity. And sometimes I'm just telling the story to the wrong room, and there's nothing wrong with the story. I'm not in the right room. And right. I think over time, you have to experience that firsthand and have the hardship and the grief of maybe letting it go, letting it suck, and just being in the and being in that process of maybe not getting the win and then test it again on another audience and refine it. And what's interesting is a lot of those things that I was really passionate about that I might have tried to sell earlier in my career, I absolutely found a place to bring them to life later.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the other thing.
Vivid art memory that will be forever ingrained in your mind when one of your ideas was laid to rest when you were starting out as a junior?
A moment, like a really shitty murder of an idea.
Right. When you were starting out, that will forever scar you. Well, now, you know, we have thick skin in the game, but you know, when you're a junior, it really gives you a deep blow to your gut because you're starting out and you put so much of you in your work.
I literally can't recount the number of ideas that I've had that have died, and I don't have a lot of personal. Like I don't feel like they're like my children that are estranged. Like I couldn't. Part of this is just too many gummies and getting old, but like I really have to say, like, I think you get to a place where if the story keeps resurfacing and it's something you really believe in, the universe, I think Mo, you said this, like it will expand and present another opportunity for you to bring that story to the world and a different platform to do it on that makes more sense than your original at bat. It almost never fails. And it's not always immediate, and you have to be weirdly like patient in between like the dormant periods where that's not happening for you, and know that it's coming. That gets a little witchy, but I'm a little witchy.
I love it. Where's my pen and paper? This is
coming
great.
about, so I feels you there.
I agree. There's so many times where you represent an old idea or a similar narrative or something that because when those specific ideas die, I don't know about you guys, but me personally, I've always had like in my head, I already shot the commercial, or it was already out in the world. People were loving it. Like, not even talking about awards. It's just like, I knew exactly how it made me feel, how it made me you know, and how I wanted people to feel about it when they saw the idea. And then when you present it and then you go through all the gauntlet and then finally it just never happens, you're just like, ah, you know, because you didn't get to show that to the world, even though you were so proud of it.
Mhm.
But I feel like you say, like these things, these moments come back in your career in different ways, different projects, but there are going to be other projects that are going to make you feel that way. And that's why it's like, it's okay, just let go, move on. You're not your idea. Something else will come, another project, another thing. I don't know, that's just what I've noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You almost become good recyclers, you know,
Yeah.
because that
Oh,
recycling
yeah.
bin gets,
Upcycle, make it better on the uptick. Let's
Yeah.
go again, but
Use,
keep it up.
yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
I love that.
one.
All right, the next one is rejection is redirection. This is one that's very top of mind these days. Hey there, insert newbie name. We regret to inform you you weren't selected. We're moving forward with another candidate. We will not be offering the position to you, aka you didn't get this job. If you just got a big fat no, sorry. If you just got let down, sorry. If you just got passed up, sorry. But we all go through this. We've flown into cities for rejection, moi, aka Bre. We've been around 5 rounds and got rejected. We've been rejected on text message. It's part of the ad game. So please don't beat yourself up. It happens to literally everyone. There's no shortage of stories. It's okay to pout, cry, and blow steam, but when you're done, get back to basics. Here's some go tips to dust your shoulders off. Pivot your job searching strategy. Learn from your mistakes. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Ask recruiters ways to you can improve. Send follow-up emails with them. So the question here is, how did you come to realize your work, when you got turned down for a job, did this open a new door for you somewhere, or you didn't even consider in your career? Is there a time you were either let go or you didn't get that interview, but then you got a better interview?
Well, I've certainly been rejected more times than I've been said yes to. I mean,
That's right.
tenfold easily.
Yeah.
And you know, we talk about a lot of this whole, like, you know, what's the other one? It's like rejection is redirection, or essentially just alluding to the idea that it opens this other portal to a different opportunity. I don't know how intrinsically connected they are. To me, it's like number of times at bats, like just keep pressing on. And I know it's harder to say, and certainly it depends on the season that this is happening to you in. I think what's interesting is I've now worked in this business through like 3 recessions. Like when I graduated, was the year the Twin Towers came down and there were no jobs. Like legends in the business that were my mentors when I was in grad school racking up debt were getting let go from their position. So any network building I was doing, any state of regrowth was like long delayed after that. And then I was like in the Bay Area during the 2008, 2009 housing crisis, where there was just sweeping financial impact on our business, especially in the Bay Area. And then, now I started a small business during COVID in the middle of a pandemic and a civil rights reckoning that's long overdue. So like there's always been these climates of like there's a proliferation of rejection out there. It just depends on how much you want to ask for. I found that, it's almost like exposure therapy, just like let it happen, swing and swing and swing. I mean, I've been turned away from places that I didn't even want to work because it was, the times were that difficult that I was, I'm the primary breadwinner for my family. I support a family of 4. Reality shifts into high gear, and you want to work every day as a creative person. It does something to us psychologically, and it fills us up in a way that we need it almost. So it's balancing that with the idea of like, is rejection redirection? Sure, I think so. I think you're on your own path to a great deal of a degree. And I think you just have to stay on the gas and expect that you're going to get turned down a lot.
That's right.
Good.
And just looking at that, Amber, as like minor setback for major comeback is just a mindset too as well, because now we're all sitting here and we have these stories, you know, so I think it's part of your story and part of your process for you to go through things like this. And I don't want to speak for everyone. I know I've been laid off before. I know there's things that haven't happened, but all those things become, you know, the major comeback that you have. So.
Yeah, and then of course when you're in it, it feels deeply personal, and you're wounded and you're scared and you are maybe angry and you've got to process some shit, and you get on that therapy train, you kick up the self-care, you start calling all your friends that really know who the fuck you are in case you forgot, that will like remind you who the fuck you are and basically roast you with love, right? To build you back up. And I'd like to think I can be that people that, I have people that I lean on for that. And I think I get to be that person for a lot of different people in this business. It's one of my favorite parts of this job is just, I don't know, just knowing that we're all going to tip over. And it's kind of a beautiful thing that we get as creative people, this opportunity to commune with each other like that at a really deep level, and oftentimes through really difficult times. And then you're right, it makes your bank of stories more interesting. It makes you less scared when it happens again. I mean, this is my third recession in the 20 years I've been doing this. And I'm like, yes, is everything on fire? Is it burning to the ground right now in a shit blizzard? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Will it invariably shift back to a time of abundance? Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just, you have to go through those things to know that intrinsically. And everybody on this call, everybody's watching, especially young people, like are going to be called to service, to try to co-author and co-write what the future of our business looks like, what the design of the future of our business looks like. So we're all going to be really busy. This is when creativity is the most valuable resource in the world.
That's right.
I think
Bre and Laura, can I add an extra slide to this one with a story of what Amber's saying and what this rejection thing, or have I been talking too much?
What's your take on it?
Oh, go for it. We still have time.
Okay. I think for everyone that's listening, there's the other side to this. Like literally, if you were to flip this slide around about when everything is also going good, that ego starts coming back, all those things start happening. And I think there's something that I feel would humble you throughout your whole career. If you just have in your mind, you're never as good as bad as they say you are. Another bomb that someone dropped on me, they said, if you live by the cheers, you'll die by the boos. So all the bad things that are going on, that's part of it. All the good things that are going on, that's part of it. That's also humbling. So there's a flip side to this, but I think something that needs to just remain constant is just knowing that you're never as good as bad as they say you are, and just to keep on moving.
Yeah.
I like this, Mo, because I speak as someone who was laid off this year in a period where 22 million Americans were laid off. And when you take to LinkedIn, all you see every other post is, I just got laid off. I just got let go. My company just laid off like 30,000 employees, Disney World, Airbnb, like you name it, they're on the platform. And as a junior coming into the industry, it's very discouraging seeing all this happening on LinkedIn. And so, like, what do you tell yourself? I think now, I'm a senior, Laura's an ACD, y'all are ECDs, ACDs, CDs. We have thick skin. We've been rejected. We know how the game goes. But when you're starting out and feeling that pressure and seeing the outside environment all being laid off at the same time, like, what do you say to yourself? Like, what do you think to yourself? Because that's one of the main questions we always get on BreakingAd, how to like really cope in this climate we're in that doesn't seem to be, hopefully it gets better. Hopefully,
It will. And when it does, remember these moments and keep it in mind, and don't look down on everyone. Like, you are the work. You're not the wins. You're not the losses. You're the work. So
Nicole, you were going to say something, I think.
Yeah, no,
No.
you're good. During this time too, in April, I was furloughed, and like I didn't see it coming, because the accounts that I was running, they've made a shit ton of money during COVID, and I was one of the only female leaders at my agency. but there were politics involved, and I was furloughed. And like you, Amber, I have 2 kids, a husband, and I'm the breadwinner. And so it was a big, like, what the fuck? And I've been at the agency for 12 years. So, you know, I hadn't been great about updating my portfolio. I hadn't been doing a great job of networking. I was pretty comfortable. So I think those are things you have to stay on top of. You need, keep networking, keep your LinkedIn profile up to date. Every time you finish a campaign that you think is book worthy, update your book, because you never know when this is going to happen. And I think for me, I ended up coming back to the same agency, but with a completely different mindset. So I started a creative women's group. So now I'm really active in mentoring and changing the culture for female creatives at our agency. And then I'm also doing a panel series called Elephant in the Room. Laura's working with me on like the first episode to talk about those uncomfortable things that they don't want to talk about in the agency, like racism in advertising and sexism and privilege and all of that. And I don't know, now I think before I was just all about the work, and I realized that yes, the work is important, but the work isn't just literally the work for the clients. Like it's about changing the industry and changing the culture at my agency. And yeah, so that's my redirection was kind of different, but yeah, it's been a change.
I got furloughed with you, and I think same thing when I came back. I was like, of course I'm coming back, but it's gonna be a different Laura. It's gonna be a different and that was the second time I got laid off. So for all the juniors listening, I got laid off twice, and both times was because agency lost clients, and it was just a huge number of people that were let go. So it's the list of, it wasn't you're fired because you suck. It was just like it's like money. It's just money that they need to recoup, and you're part of that bucket of money that they need. Right. And a lot of times those decisions, you don't understand why or how they're made. And the more you dwell on why me, the less you're gonna be able to like bounce back and find other things. And I think probably getting furloughed this year was a good, I was also getting comfortable. I had been at GSD&M for like 5-6 years. I knew my peep. I knew who my ranking in the thing, like how to play the game in the agency. And I think for me, getting furloughed was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to lose my visa. So I might have to leave the US. So that just like a whole other mind shift. And that kind of opened my mind to like, whoa, shit, there's a whole world out there. And so even if you have friends who went to Miami Ad School, which is I went to Miami Ad School, it's a very international school, keep in touch with those friends that are going to go all over the world, because one day you might get laid off and you might be like, well, fuck this place, I want to go somewhere else now. And so making sure to keep all your contacts, that's like one of the best advice, is just like keep in touch with people, say hi, do a FaceTime once in a while, even if you're not even talking about advertising, just keep friendships alive, because we get so
you can use those motherfuckers for a job later on.
You can, or you can ask them for advice, or you can just, just have someone in the city you move to someday. I don't know. It's just
wanted to emphasis that Gritty Bitch said a very powerful statement.
No, but there was something you said, Laura, that's so true. Like, you can't take the rejection personally. And I know I went through a whole, like, all the stages of grief. I was super angry, but it's all about money, and it's not about you as a human. It's about making shit add up on a spreadsheet and a balance sheet, especially if you're in an agency that's held by one of the big holding companies. They have to make an amount. They have to pay a certain amount. And so those numbers have to work.
Yeah.
Ooh. And I got to ask y'all this. Am I the only one that's in the group that has just been laid off because we weren't cutting it? Because that's happened, Ooh. And, sometimes that's really, really tough.
That's very
tough. Wait, cutting what? The cheese? What you cutting?
Not the cut, it's not a money thing. It's not whatever. It is a money thing, but they were the first ones to go. They're junior, just get rid of them, and that also sucks. I wonder if there are any stories about when that's happened and how to be resilient in that case.
I feel like I was more insulated from those kind of strikes when I was younger, because I was cheap labor, right? So I could kind of punch above my weight, and they didn't really have to pay me like peanuts compared to what some of the big dogs were making. So I think, you know, certainly as a woman in a leadership position that has held some, you know, I've held some spots at some big, you know, male dominated holding companies, and then offshoots of agencies that are also very, you know, maybe traditional in their founders, that I haven't necessarily felt welcome at, or felt like, you know, my career trajectory wasn't being supported. But do you mean like your agency was released from a contract with a client because they weren't happy with the work, or do you felt targeted at one point when you were younger?
I mean, the way it was the agency's already struggling.
Yeah.
And, you know, every month people were getting let go when the good ones were sticking around.
Yeah.
But the ones that are, I'm gonna say mediocre, are gone.
Yeah. Well, when you're still cutting your teeth, right? You're not going to have a perfect batting average. I mean, I think there's something to remember, that there's such a goddamn abundance of talent in our industry, that, you know, sometimes there is just a better fit with a different prospect, whether that's an existing employee or a new hire. And I think it's so hard not to take that shit personally, but it's not until you're out of it and can kind of look back on it with some clarity where you go like, yeah, that was kind of a ham-fisted kind of pairing, putting me on that. That was not my shit, and I wasn't good enough at faking it.
Yeah, that's great. I feel that I agree with you. I feel that the people in here need to hear all that too as well, because I feel that we've all sort of been through it, different stories, but that feeling, you know.
It hurts.
So, that's great.
I will also say too, like in terms of like, what if you graduated this last spring and you're riding the new job posts on LinkedIn looking for like your foot in the door at your first agency, you've got debt, you're shitting yourself because, you know, you don't know when COVID's going to let up and when agency hires are going to, you know, kind of start to ramp up again, and you're not seeing it because you're new to the business, you're not hearing it, you don't have a line on the temperature, you know, of what's coming. This is like the hardest advice to take. And I will say, if I had heard it then, I'm not sure I would have swallowed it as easy, because I was extremely ambitious to start my career when I finished grad school, and very much in debt and very eager to start building a career and grow my independence. But I didn't have a choice with 9/11. And so what I ended up doing, no shit, I found a job in the newspaper back in Delaware where I grew up, and I went and worked on a Christmas tree farm and drove families around to chop down a Christmas tree and made wreaths, and got to know my dad better, who's like my favorite person that ever lived. And it was only a couple months. Like I was able to find work by like January of the following year, but I just like let it happen. And I think when I finally did that, I was able to like breathe deeply and have another alternative, beautiful experience that honestly now I look back on that and think of like, what a cool gift that I got that time with him. And I got to do that weird job that was one of the most fun things I've ever done. Very joyful and fulfilling. And if there's any, I know that there's a lot of implied privilege in having the ability to just kind of hole up with your parents and hunker down and try to, you know, wait out this period of reckoning that we're going through. But it, you know, however you can do it, however you can pull it off, if that means getting in a van with 4 of your friends and turning the rest of the year into a road trip, then share that with the world. Like, I don't know if like grinding every day looking for a job in this climate is the way to get to the end, to get to the finish line at this point. Sometimes walking away from it and growing as a person is exactly what needs to happen.
Cool.
No, it's very like, yeah, but like these loans are kicking in, like what's, you know, believe me, I know that part of it too. So I'm saying if I had heard this, I don't think I'd have been like, this is some bullshit. I need to get paid.
I think that last
I didn't
sentiment,
have a choice. Thank God I didn't have a choice. I wouldn't have done that.
the last sentiment you just dropped is a great segue into our next post that we're going to talk about, which is
Richard did that picture of me.
which is trust that gut, girl, because I've been
Oh.
my gut is trusting me right now to make this segue. But talking about intuition, your third eye, we think this is very applicable to the current climate because do you trust your head? Do you trust your gut? Who do you trust? Do you trust your Mo's mentor who seems to have all the answers? Nobody knows. Let's read this post and get your take. So file under life fucking mantra. Always listen to your intuition. It never leads you astray, and it's your second brain. Hashtag motherfucking facts. If something feels like shit, it's probably shit. This applies to every aspect of our industry, from accepting jobs to concepting creative. Always gut check yourself as a reflex. Because if you don't, you pay a price. Maybe you end up in the wrong shop, accept a partner from the bowels of hell, produce a tone deaf commercial, or took crap career advice and now you're fucking stuck. So don't ignore your instincts. You'll need it to survive in the ad game. Disclaimer, referring to your gut, not the agency. Gut. So I think right now, with what you just said, Amber, if you want to go on that road trip and not just hunker down and start looking for a job in this climate, like if that's what your gut feeling is, do you go with that gut feeling? If you're in this shop that you're not producing the best creative at, or your bosses aren't propelling you forward, me as a minority creative, right, like I want a boss that lifts me, elevates me, gives me a voice. If my intuition's like, yo girl, this dude right here, he's not propelling you forward, you're gonna have to bounce, I'm gonna have to listen. So have y'all been in a situation where your gut was just like firing off, sending you smoke signals, get out of here, jump ship, whether it's producing work, whether it's accepting a job offer, whatever it is, at all stages in the ad game? That's some truth. Let it sink in.
It's sunk in. I just don't always want to be the one to go. I'll go. Okay, fine. Since you twisted my arm, great. Since you twisted my arm. First off, that's interesting what you said about my mentors having the answer when most of my mentors is pretty much science fiction. So like watching Dark Crystal and Matrix and all those things and getting those little things from it. So thank you for that.
Yes, clean.
And on that and on that science fiction and trust your gut thing, I watched Pinocchio super early. Your Jiminy Cricket, man. Just let your conscience be your guide.
They're trying to cancel Pinocchio right now.
Did they what now?
Yeah, Pinocchio kills Geppetto in the book.
Oh wow! I did not know that. I'm gonna have to check that out. That's the second dark story next to Cinderella. I heard how the real one played out.
Oh,
But yeah, to the trust your gut thing, yeah. I mean, yeah, Jiminy Cricket said it. I'm sorry about the canceling that's happening now, but yeah, let your conscience be your guide.
That's a good one. I'm gonna write that down too.
Cool.
Nicole?
No, I was thinking about this differently, like when it comes to creative, not necessarily like leaving your shop, but I think as a junior, I think sometimes you have this strong belief that like this idea you have, like it's freaking amazing. Why is my stupid creative director not seeing my genius? My gut's telling me this is awesome. And I think sometimes a lot of times there's this business savvy that you haven't quite owned. You haven't quite like honed yet. You haven't lived in the industry long enough to like really understand, kind of the nuances with clients or with business or what's driving that. And so sometimes I think trusting your gut when it comes to your ideas is not necessarily the best thing to do. I think if you're fortunate enough to have a really patient creative director early in your career who allows you to express your POV, but then explains to you maybe why this idea is not a perfect fit for right now, that's good. I don't know, maybe that's a controversial
that's a good
take on it.
take, because as a junior, you never think about your creative director's position in this. When I was freelancing, not that I was a creative director by any means, but you're litigating more with clients. You kind of have to have like your client's interests at hand at all times, versus when your creative director is just like doing it all for you, right? So the interest changed. And
Well,
when
there's
you're,
like a relationship too that you have to maintain with a client. So it's like, cool, this idea might be great, but I know it's going to piss the client off and damage the relationship. So I can't bring it in as is. And what I've been trying to do lately too, with a lot of younger creatives who, I mean, I've literally had creatives been like, you know, you just killed my Cannes award-winning idea. And so I've met with them and explained to them why something is not a Cannes award-winning idea. Like, there's that. Another way with trust your gut. I think something I've experienced as a woman, and I don't know if maybe you didn't experience this, Amber, because it sounds like you had all the confidence in the world. But I think sometimes there's like this imposter syndrome thing, and I think a lot of creatives get this, where there's a lot of self-doubt that creeps in. And I think too, being a woman in leadership, there were a lot of times where I was the only female voice in a room. And especially like when I got to the level of group creative director, there was a time where I was partnered with the person who had been my boss for like 6 years. And that was, by that point, I'd honed my skills enough where I needed to learn to trust my gut more, because there was a solid window, probably the first 6 to 9 months I was in that position, where I didn't trust my gut because I don't know, I had imposter syndrome. I felt insecure, like, oh, this person has a decade more experience than me. But then when I started to listen to myself, to my intuition, to, you know, to trust my gut, then things changed and they clicked, and I advanced a lot more.
Well, just to clarify, I was also like a human skin bag of emotions and insecurities.
I thought that was all creatives.
Yeah, no, any swag I had was all performative. Like, it was just like, well, this is, you know, I gotta believe it and I gotta make them believe it. And then you get a couple wins, and then something switches in your brain and you're like, I'm not total trash at this. This is kind of what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know, I think it's interesting, this question, right? Because you could, if the general question is like trusting your gut in this business, there's like the whole lane that you go down around ideation and your instinct around branding as an artist, and talking, using pop culture to like to be disruptive and influence minds, and there's that gut piece of it. And then there's the navigating your career, slightly more political gut of reading the room, knowing the tenor of the business, and what kind of behind closed doors things that you might be picking up on in your body and your spirit that are telling you maybe shit's off. And I've definitely been in a lot of instances in my career where it's like the vocab word of the century, but where I've been gaslit into thinking I was crazy for assuming that something sketchy was going on. And I was dead right. And it's in hindsight that you realize those things, that there's a lot of gaslighting in our business. It happens to not to everyone, but certainly to a lot of women, certainly to a lot of minority groups. I think it's a form of keeping us in our lanes. And, you know, now I've been doing this long enough to know, like, again, it gets back to this witchiness of like a little bit of knowing that only comes from experience of going like, shit, I thought that. Everybody told me I was crazy. I was fucking dead on the nose. So, okay, I'm going to take that understanding of my own trust in my gut and my own intuition about things into the next circumstance that I have to decode, because all the parts are moving all the time. We're constantly in a state of evaluation of the opportunity, the people in the room, the world at large, and where we can take the work from a creative standpoint. And that's a lot of shit to be calculating constantly. So when it comes to like my gut around the work, I think I'm probably more willing to listen to other point of views that I respect and admire and want to emulate and collaborate with to make my work better. When it comes to navigating what's right for me, I want to say that I've gotten to a point where I can trust my gut over my head, which I've wasted a lot of time overthinking things in this business. And if that's something I could encourage people to not do, I'm always going to take that opportunity.
Facts.
Facts. Hashtag facts. Hashtag Mo, you're next.
I thought I already said it with the Jimmy Cricket stuff.
You started it off. You popped it off with the little pedo cricket. That's right.
That's right.
All right. Well, with that, we're gonna end with our last post, and then we'll open the floor for question. And we have to be a bit more quick. But it's just advertising, guys. How does that make you feel? You know, breathe in, breathe out. You're not performing open heart surgery. You're not negotiating peace treaties with world powers. You're not arguing before the Supreme Court. You're not finding the cure for COVID-19. You are branding. You are positioning fast food. You're rebranding the latest lineup of cars. You're launching a piece of candy. That's it. Don't lose sleep over it. It's just fucking advertising. But if you're crafting social creative, if you're helping nonprofit and sticking up for cause-related efforts, keep pushing, because the cultural revolution is underway and we need the best brains at the table. So the question here is, you know, when was it in your career that you kind of had to take a step back and be like, it's just advertising. Like, I'm not going to lose my life over this, and we can talk about it.
I think for me, that I had kind of had that shift and that realization after I had my second kid. So like my first kid, I was still like, no, advertising. Like I couldn't wait to get back from maternity leave. I don't know what the fuck was wrong with me. And then it took my second kid where I was like, wait a minute. And I mean, I think what you realize is everything is always on fire, always in advertising, but like nothing ever actually burns down. Like we somehow, like we, yeah, write that one down. No.
Damn, gritty bitch.
But I mean, like we persist, right? So I think you learn to adapt to that chaos, but then the key is, how do you not take that adapted mindset home with you and into the rest of your life? Like I think that's my current struggle. And I'm going to quote someone whose books I have not read, Nora Roberts, you know, that romance novelist. I saw someone had shared this thing on Instagram a few weeks ago, and it was it's about balls, Bre. So get ready. No, it's not those balls though. So she said someone had asked her about how she juggles writing and kids, and she said, like, in life she's constantly juggling like 50 balls at a time, and some of them are plastic and some of them are glass. So you just have to make sure the ones you drop aren't glass. So we're always going to be dropping balls. So it's like, if my kid has, let's say, like a really important thing at school that I need to be there for, then I can drop a plastic work ball. And if I have like a massive presentation or a new business pitch, then I can drop a plastic ball. Like, I'm not picking my kids up that day. Someone else can do it. They're not going to fucking hate me because I caught all the glass balls. So I think that, I don't know. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
I drew two big balls right next
Got
to
it.
And I put plastic ball, not important. It takes balls for the right balls. Drop kid off at school. But that's
balls.
That's my shorthand for what you just said.
That's great. I'd love to add on to the dropping balls and glass and all that stuff. This was advice. This was not from science fiction. What I got from someone actually getting out of the ad industry, because I came in during like the Alex Bogusky state, where it's like, if you don't come in Sunday, don't come in Monday, grind. And this advice that I got in the tech industry from someone who probably has 3 or 4 islands, they broke down their life process for me, and it was so refreshing to hear. They said that number 1, you know, to the point about that glass dropping, is your health. Like, health is actually wealth. 2 is friends and family. And then 3 is your passion. And I would hope that all, you know, 18 people that are in here, it is in advertising, hopefully, because it's fun, it's great. But just remember, that's like number 3 on the basis of the 3 things that you want to be worried about in the world. And this came from someone who were like, you would think it would be their number 1. So yeah, I'm just honestly snowballing what you said, Nicole. That was great.
Yeah.
Very good.
Amber, one last word before, and feel free to start sending your questions in the Q&A as we give Amber the last her time to answer.
No, I'll just say like what I just heard from everybody was really about perspective, right? Like just however you get there. If you have a mentor that can get you there like in short order. By the way, I need Mo's mentor's name.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's someone that owns the island, but the other one that has all the really good sound bites. I want that person on my speed dial. I just think it's just perspective, and I think you guys covered off on that for sure.
Ooh.
I like that. I wrote that down too.
I think for me it's always knowing when to step back. You know, I think there's in every project it gets to a point where everything's on fire, everything's like death, or you know, and not even talking about getting fired from your job. It's just like clients is gonna get really unhappy and whatever. I think there's always a moment where it's like you almost have to call the team and be like, hey, let's chill for a second. Like it's gonna be okay. Like pump the brakes, figure out how we can solve this smarter and not kill ourselves over it, because there's always a solution that's always better. And I like to always say, if it's not worth dying, like we're not saving lives. We're not, unless we're currently working for a campaign that's gonna help promote the treatment of COVID-19. We're not saving lives. So it's just advertising, and take time for yourself. And I've been really bad about it lately, so I should listen to my own advice. I am having trouble seeing the Q&A on my screen. So Bre, does any questions come in? Does anybody have any questions?
Let's see if there are any questions coming in, because if not, I could just ask really personal, intrusive questions.
Yeah. Like what kind of cheese do you like while getting a prostate exam?
Right. And have you updated that prostate playlist? Because
yes, that's actually my number one question for you, Mo. What banger do you like for your banger?
Oh man.
No. See, that's why I reel it back in.
Oh man.
I see it now.
Picture painted, Bre. God damn.
Oh, I just realized that I've been sending questions to you guys and not the attendees on the chat.
All right, we have one. What are skills that aren't necessarily required in this industry but would be great to have?
Oh.
Kristen Spencer.
You guys gonna take that one first?
What's the question? I'm sorry. What industry?
What are skills that aren't necessarily required for this industry but would be great to have?
For me, right now, this is gonna
potty mouth makes it more enjoyable. It's not required, but I'd like to have those on my team. So
I've been leaning on a lot of animators and motion graphics folks. I mean, now that we're kind of existing in these pods, like that's how we're making shit. So honestly, if I was adding a new skill to my resume right now, I'd do I'd get in and you figure out some editorial tools that are new to you, and motion tools and basic animation. Maker shit.
Yeah, that's a great one.
That is an awesome one.
I think learn the opposite of what you're doing. If you're an art director, take some writing classes. If you're a writer, take a photography class, learn about stuff that you're not supposed to know, because you'll be a better partner for it eventually.
I think too, like something that you naturally hopefully learn as you go through are presentation skills, but there's something if you can hone those and fine tune those early on, it'll propel your career. So there are a lot of ways you can work on this. You can record yourself on Zoom, so you could present to yourself and then watch yourself back. And as painful as that is, I think you do learn a lot about the things that you do when you're presenting, whatever your tics are. But there are also like just presentation things outside, like Toastmasters, things like that every kind of community has, where I would recommend looking into those types of things, because if you can sell your work, then, you know, you're more likely to move ahead.
Love it. And also hustle too as well. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you're a ECD VP or a junior intern, that just never gets old. You know, taking those banner ads that you will get and coming back with 360 campaigns, like there's just that sort of grind that can put you ahead, you know, people that are so much more just skilled at one thing. So
Yeah.
Contrary to popular belief, I meditate every day. Without meditation, I would be a chicken with my head cut off. And I think while it's not a skill you need in advertising or in any industry whatsoever, I do feel it allows me to really like assess situations better and perform well under pressure, which is our industry at every given time. Like Nicole, Amber, and Mo said, there's always a fire to put off. And if you have a calm head when making these decisions that you have to put these fires out in, it just makes like the day go by so smoothly. Like if I were not to meditate, you can totally tell I'd be a raging lunatic. So definitely A+ for mental health. Headspace, Calm app, whatever works wonders. Whatever you can to improve your mental health to help you in the ad game is definitely a plus.
We have a new question. From your experience, what is the best way to push the clients to buy a more creative experimental idea?
Damn.
ooh.
Money, money, money.
First, you have to
sometimes
go with your
I think
creative director. So that's step one. But then step two.
No, I mean, I think sometimes it's showing them what other brands are doing in the category, where maybe if they're not, you know, they're behind, or also showing them what's worked in like a different category that may be an idea that's pushed or is of a similar vein, so they can see how it was successful. I mean, showing results, like how, like, you know, campaigns have been successful for other brands, is one way. Positioning something strategically too, like if something is strategically aligned, you know, it's hard for them to argue with it.
Yeah. Ooh, this is a weird question whoever asked, because I am the client now, so that's tough.
You are the client, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm gonna say this, and it's weird now because like I would see, you know, the production company go on mute and I'm like, yo, they're talking some shit about us right now. I would say it can be a relationship thing. Like, I mean, you got to make sure you're in the right relationship to begin with. If you're always talking about skydiving and your partner's afraid of heights, then like we may have a problem. Doesn't matter how many, you know, results that you see. So I would just maybe think about reevaluating the situation.
The other thing too with like conservative clients, we always say is like crawl, walk, run. Like,
Nice.
And that builds off of like what you were saying. So
yeah, that's awesome.
I think that's a really good point of like baby stepping them toward major transformation. And then I think when you get to that place where you intrinsically are in the room and you know the thing that you're asking them to make is terrifying and it's that good, that you're really clear with them that you're scared too. I think a lot of times there just needs to be an energy clearing of like, no shit, like we're about to take a crazy jump, and that's exciting. And all those fear things that are happening in your body are completely normal. And that you can share that. I think it goes back to what Mo said about relationship building, you know, like eventually it really comes down to trust.
Yeah.
Cool.
yeah, and what you just said, to build off what you said, Amber, I think a lot of times maybe when you're young, you think that there's some like Jedi mind trick, mind manipulation shit that goes in to selling work. But I mean, I've had the best success with being transparent and honest and open. Like there's no like manipulation.
So great. That's so great. Yeah. I can go such a long way because they're like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, truly trying to like understand the pressures of their role, the implications of the decisions that they have to make and the budgets that they're managing. And then, you know, being empathetic to everyone in the room that has skin in the game, I think.
Ooh, y'all dropping facts. That's so great. Cause then that just like, I'm sorry, did I cut you off, Amber?
No.
Oh, yeah, well, all that's great because what that happens is they start relaxing a little bit because clients have clients, you know? So like that honesty and that like all of that stuff is just such a breath of fresh air, and you'll find out that relationship part just becomes great and the work just starts selling itself.
Yeah. It starts with like understanding their business, and then understanding them pulls you out of that low view and gives you a perspective where you're like, what do they need in this moment to get to where I am about this idea?
That's great. That's great.
And also, like, when you're coming in with like those big game-changing ideas, a lot of times those are outside of the budget, their marketing budgets, right? So they're going to have to go ask their boss for money. So you're not just selling to them, you're selling to their boss. So how can you give them the tools they need to make their boss comfortable with money?
I hope y'all are writing this. If someone had told me this shit, super facts, y'all. My God,
You
that's great.
need to make your clients look good in front of their bosses. Ultimately, that's your role as an agency.
Well, I'm gonna do the pivot dance because we're pivoting to another question.
Yeah, we have another question. What is a good way to fight imposter syndrome?
That is a good question.
I mean,
Go ahead.
no, we all have it. It's
I'll jump in here. I think it's no surprise if you are, unless living under a rock, that I am quite active on LinkedIn. And I was never that way at all beforehand, before I got laid off, before the pandemic, before a lot of things. And it was because I definitely had imposter syndrome. So when I started advertising, I actually interned at an agency where Mo was at when I started interning. But after that agency, I went to another agency and then another agency. And like, no one sounds like me, looks like me, talks like me, has my background. So when you don't see people like you reflected in creative leadership roles, it starts kind of weighing you down. And then you kind of second guess yourself a lot. Like, oh shit, like in this Christmas script, I got to talk about peach cobbler, what I was eating, carne asada at my Christmas dinner. So how can I like relate to this script that I'm supposed to write, right? So I think one thing for me as I got a little bit more, advanced in the ad game was to double down on my strengths and what made me unique and what made me stand out versus blending in. Because unfortunately, the way the ad game is right now, it's kind of currently being restructured to a bigger degree, but everyone looks the same, talks the same. We are a woke industry, but we are hiring the least woke people, unfortunately, out there. And I'm not speaking on behalf of all agencies. I'm just speaking of the status quo that is fucking getting shook by my damn self, because we are no longer silent. We are no longer muted. And we are no longer we do have imposter syndrome, but to a degree where we feel like we can own our voice and get it out there. Because I think imposter syndrome, at least for minorities and people that sound like me, look like me, talk like me, is what kind of like makes us kind of step back and not bring forward these ideas. And you know what? We just need to bring more to the table and have these conversations with clients, with our CDs, and help them understand why it's important to have this narrative in a spot or in a commercial or on social media. And that's it. Mic drop.
All right. I got to pick up that mic and answer that. Now make it as fast as possible. And this is another slash mentory story. They're not really mentors, but he dropped some facts to me after this happened. What imposter syndrome does is it gets you like into freeze mode.
Right.
And I had that experience going somewhere, and there was a whole meeting, and there was all these motherfuckers that were like coming from summa cum laude, from Harvard degree, just being where I was at. So I'm like, yo, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm the only brother in this room. I know I got some crazy shit to say, but I don't want to say anything. And they noticed. And my ECD pulled me to the corner, and he goes, I gotta tell you something, Mo. He's like, don't afraid to be wrong. Like, you'd find out just having that mindset alone of just not being scared to be wrong just enables you to get so much stuff out. And you'll find out that all of these people that are talking and making you have imposter syndrome, it's not that they're not like right. It's not that they're right. It's just that they're not afraid to be wrong. So I would just take that and just use that as a propeller of going in, and you'll see that imposter syndrome is something that everyone has, I believe.
Yeah, and then when you're wrong, if you're wrong, just accept you're wrong and shut up and learn from it.
That's right.
Failing is part of the game. And if you don't fail, you don't learn.
That's right.
Nicole, I see your mouth. You're about to say something.
No, I was just agreeing. I was nodding.
We have one question that says, if you're someone who's working in a country but not the speaker of the local language. Well, that's me, by the way. I'm technically, my native language is French. It's not English or Spanish. Would you imagine moving into an English-speaking country and he's a copywriter? I would say yes, do it. If your English is proficient as a writer, if you feel confident writing, first it'll get better because you'll have to, because you'll be forced to do it. So go for it. You know, especially the world we live in today is global ideas. It's a lot of brands are doing work that's not just for the US or just for Latin America or just for Europe. A lot of campaigns are being used all over the world. So a lot of agencies are hiring people from outside of the US. And although I would say if you're thinking about coming to the US right now, visas are very, very tough. But if you're a student, you could go and like get a student visa. There's loopholes around it. But yeah, do it. Doesn't matter what language you speak. It's advertising. If you speak English, you'll be fine. If you speak Spanish, you'll be fine. There's plenty of jobs out there in the US. And I even have friends who told me, American friends are like, should I go to Europe, France? Should I go to Paris? Or should I go to Amsterdam? Or should I go? I'm like, yes, they need English copywriters. So, and they're desperate for them because over there, it's also, they're not just doing work for Europe, they're also doing work for the US sometimes. So, and vice versa. So go for it. Right? What do you guys think?
I like that. I like that because it's coming from you. This is my end of panel dance. I only dance when we are segueing into a new conversation, but we are about to drop off because the panel is over. I would put the eye of the tiger, but my phone died right now. So thank you everyone for tuning in. The 17 people left. We started with 30. Yeah. Zoom fatigue is real, y'all. Take some time for your mental health and for your damn self.
But there's a lot of Sideshow Creativity Week events happening this week. And tomorrow, Invisible Creatives is having an awesome panel. Mm-hmm. There's also, there's a bunch of other ones. Go on our website, find them out. Lots and lots of incredible talents that are going to talk about all sorts of different topics in our ad industry, about side projects. So keep tuning in. Thank you for spending an hour and a half with us. Sorry we started late. And keep in touch. I mean Mo, Amber, Nicole. Well, Nicole, I'll see you in the meeting.
Yeah. To that point about keeping in touch, you guys, like, slide in some DMs. I'm not speaking for everyone. Slide in some DMs because we're more than happy to like let all of those answers out. Like, tell us, ask us those questions. We're more than happy to help. So you guys could come in and actually do it better. Hopefully, do it better than we can because we.
Are you reading something out in the chat?
That was my biggest mistake as a junior. Is I never ask enough questions to people. I was always too afraid to reach out to people. I'm still too shy to reach out to a lot of people. And I think that was my biggest mistake as a junior is I didn't network the way I should have. And now I've learned my lesson. I'm much better at it, but go network. Networking is for some people very scary. It was for me. And sometimes just sending a message and saying hello can go a long way.
A long way. So do it. If it wasn't for my mentors, I couldn't do it. So I'm sending that fucking elevator.
I think you need to start an Instagram account, Mo's Mentors.
I will follow it.
Oh, I'm gonna make a pun. Momento, more money.
Oh my God, I knew that was coming.
Hey everyone, Bre said something funny. We should laugh.
Oh my goodness, Nicole, you win today.
Also, Mo, I feel like I have to tell you this because you weren't in tune, but in the chat room, when you started saying people should like slide into all our DMs, I just said slide into your DMs and only your DMs and only ask you questions.
It's all good. It's all good.
Also put your phone number, it looks like, in your home address.
ASL.
I mean, that's
I'm fucking with
a
you.
lot.
All right. Well,
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. It's such a pleasure.
What a
Keep
good time.
tuning in.
Nice
There's
meeting
a lot
all
more
of you.
programs.
screenshots with all
Okay.
your faces.
Keep on keeping on, Sideshow.
Keep it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eye of the tiger. Mm, 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 mm.
All right.
Later.
Bye.
We'll go eat
Yeah.
some cheese.
Bye.